Seventh Hero is a small filler type game by AG. A game that can be played as a warm-up game, as a lunch break game. Actually, come to think of it, I just come from playing the game a couple of times over lunch. It is a fantasy game, so to speak. There is fantasy art on the cards and there's some fantasy text. It is not a very thematic game, but there are some games that are fun and good without being too thematic. However, as soon as I open the box, be ready to be disappointed. Because... ta-da! This box is way too large for what is contained in here. The game is this deck of cards and a rulebook, which of course could have been printed in a smaller format and put in a much smaller box, like you have in the line of smaller boxes by AG. I would like that very much. I like how portable those boxes are. Then I could have stacked this one with the other games of this line that I have, but this box is just larger than those boxes, smaller than the other ones. I understand that actually grumbling about I can't stack the box right is really a first world problem, but still. That's a consideration, and I'm sure I'm not the only gamer that would make that consideration. You have player rates, 5 player rates. The game is for 3 to 5 players. And then the game is simply made of a deck of cards representing fantasy heroes with numerical values from 1 to 7. The art is pretty pleasant. We have the guy from Assassin's Creed, Felicia Day in the guild, the dude from 300. We are the 7th hero! Sigourney Weaver, got it. Gandalf. So there's art that is reminiscent of well-known tropes of fantasy or adventure, and especially things coming from video games and film. All these are the similarities that I kind of had the impression I saw there. So each card has a numerical value there, has a power there, and a condition. How does it work? At the beginning of the game, each player gets 2 cards face up in front of themselves in their play area. This is the initial party of the player. Then each player receives a hand of 5 cards. These are kept secret from the other players. You place the other cards in the middle of the table as a draw deck, and the game is ready to start. Now you look at your cards, and when it is your turn, the first thing that you do is you flip a card face up and you read the bottom text. That gives you the condition for the hero that will take a stroll around the table this turn. So when it is your turn, you draw a card, and then you choose a hero from your hand that matches that condition. The idea is that then, once you choose that hero from your hand, you put it face down on the table and you send it to the next player. The next player can choose to recruit the hero, in which case the hero is flipped face up and possibly added to the party of the hero. Or the player can send it to the next player and the hero goes around. If nobody wants it, it goes back to the initial player who has to recruit it. A couple of things about this though. Ideally, the first thing that you do is to try to send the hero that meets the condition from your hand. If you do not have any card that meets the condition, then you have to send the hero from your party around as the wandering hero. If that cannot be done either, then you draw a card from the deck and you put it face down on the table, nobody looks at it, and you send it around as the wandering hero, offering a possibility to each player to get it before it comes back to you. And again, at that point you would have to recruit it. Now, when a player recruits a wandering hero, if the wandering hero is not in the player's party yet, hooray! Suppose I have a 2 and a 6, I recruit this guy who is a 7. I simply add that hero to my party. Now I have an extra hero, hooray! But what if I recruit a hero that I already have in my party? That is pretty bad. There's a strange story about doppelgangers and people that pose as the heroes but are there to kill your hero. So the hero meets the double, blah, 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 blah. Point is, if you recruit a hero that you already have, you discard both the original hero and the wandering hero in a pile face down by you. This is a pile of eliminated heroes, so it is important that you keep it separate from the discard pile because it may be important at the end of the game for tiebreakers. So the heroes are going around the table and players are considering whether to recruit them or not, and they have a general sense from the indication of what kind of hero that may be. However, you're also allowed to ask a question. Suppose a hero just came to me and it came from the hand of a player, so the player that played it knows what this card is. Then I can ask a question to that player. To ask a question, I choose a card from my hand. I secretly show it to that player. Look, player, look at this card. And I ask, is this card the same as the Wandering Hero or no? And the active player that sent the card out says simply yes or no. Now I know if that hero is the same as my card or not, and based on that information I may decide to recruit it or not. Which is great, but that also means that the more of such questions you ask, the more you're depleting your hand, the more you're placing yourself in a dangerous position, because when it comes your turn, if you have a small hand of cards, you may not be able to send out the required hero, then you're sending a hero from your party, which is bad. What you're trying to do is to collect as many different heroes as possible and to place as many such heroes as possible in your party. Other important thing is that heroes have abilities that can be played out of turn depending on when the text of the card applies. The abilities are pretty much self-explanatory. Some interrupt their abilities, such as this one. It allows you to nullify an ability. But once you use the ability of a hero, and you can only use the ability of the heroes in your party, once you use the ability, the hero is spent, and you flip it like this to indicate that. Ideally, well, usually, I mean, by default, the heroes can use their ability only once per game, but there is Gandalf, the chieftain here, that allows you to renew one of your hero's abilities, but that is his ability, so you're spending him to renew another hero's ability. And there are a lot of things that can be done with abilities. You can, for example, prevent an opponent from recruiting a hero if you think that that hero would benefit the opponent, or you simply want the hero to go all the way around and come back to you. You can eliminate a hero that is wandering around using the ability of this guy here. You can eliminate the wandering hero, again, to prevent an opponent from getting a card that may benefit them. Or maybe a card is coming around and I know it's the one that I sent out, and I'm gonna get stuck with that card, and I don't want it because maybe it will kill one of my heroes. Then I use the ability of this card to kill the card that otherwise I would have to reveal and may kill one of my heroes. So pretty basic idea. You flip a card, you send a card out, people may or may not recruit it, it may or may not come back to you, and if it does come back to you, you flip it face up. If you don't have it, it's part of your party now. If you have it, it eliminates one of your heroes, and other people may recruit, and they have the same condition. Different hero you recruit the hero you have, it eliminates one of your heroes. It's very important that when somebody announces, I'm recruiting a hero, then you give the other players enough time to choose to use their abilities. If a card just comes to you and you may say, mine, that's kind of like tricky, because then people may complain, well, but I wanted to eliminate that hero. So just make sure that you give players time to use their abilities between when you announce an action, especially the action of recruiting a hero, and when you actually perform the action. At the end of your turn, very important, you draw a card to add to your hand, and then your turn is over, and it goes to the next player that goes through the same routine. Reveal a card, look at the condition, send out a hero, resolve that, draw a card to go in your hand, repeat. The game is over when a player has 6 heroes. When that happens, then that player is the winner of the game, if you manage to have 6 heroes that are all different from one another. And that is not all that easy to achieve, because players will try to stop you from doing so. If that doesn't happen, the game is over when the draw deck has been exhausted. At that point, the player with the largest party is the winner. There may be a tie there, in which case the tiebreaker is the pile of eliminated heroes. The player with the smallest pile of eliminated heroes breaks the tie. If there still is a tie there, then you count the points indicated on the cards of the heroes in your party. You total them. In this case I would have 16 points, and the player with the highest total is the winner of the game. If there is a tie there too, then you share victory with whoever has the same amount of points in their party as you do. This is a nice little game that is very basic in essence, very simple, but has a couple of subtleties that reveal themselves as you play the game, which really make the experience of playing the game quite nice. One thing is, for example, the fact that as the hero is offered, if you're the first player hero is offered to, then you get a chance of getting the hero first, but you also have very little information. Maybe you ask a question and the question is such that you think you don't want that hero, then you pass it along. The people that are come after you in the turn order and that they're offered the hero have more information, because now they're also taking advantage of the information that you gave them when you asked a question. So the later you are in a turn, the more information you have based on what other players have done. But of course, the later you are in a turn, the less chances you have of actually getting the card, because the card may be recruited by somebody else before. So that's a nice little balancing aspect there. But what I really like here in this game about the strategy is how you need to manipulate the size of your hand. It is great to use cards for a variety of things, to ask a lot of questions, that's the main thing actually, but then by reducing the size of your hand, you're putting yourself in danger, because maybe you will have to lose heroes from your party to send them out on an adventure. Another nice little touch is the fact that suppose I need a hero number 1 in my party, and I do have a hero number 1 in my hand. You're offering me a card which may be a 1. Then I ask you, is this card here? And you say, no, it isn't. Oh, that's bad. If you said yes, then I recruit the 1, I discard the 1 I showed you, and I have a 1 in my hand, in my party. But if it's not a 1, then maybe I can ask you another question, or maybe you can just let the hero go. The problem is that now the 1 that I want and that I had in my hand needs to be discarded. This is something very important. When you show a card to the active player to ask a question, then you have to discard that card. It is temporarily discarded face down, so the players don't get advantage of knowing that, what that card is, but you discard it. The cool thing is that you can ask as many questions as you want. You can burn all of your hand in one turn, which is a terrible idea, but you could potentially. So you need to find a balance between not asking too many questions and asking just enough, and there is that dilemma there of asking questions with the cards that you actually want in your party, because that reduces the chances, of course, that the hero will then come back to you. Nice little things like this one really make this game quite enjoyable. There is an aspect of deduction, there is an aspect of bluffing, maybe in sending out a hero that I desperately want and I'm trying to act like I'm hoping somebody else recruits it. Maybe it's the opposite. I want somebody to recruit that hero because it would hurt them, but I'm trying to act like I want that hero. Maybe I'll look like I really want to recruit a hero. I'm giving you time to use your effects because I'm hoping that you use the effect so that maybe you slaughtered the hero, so you wasted your effect, and I don't have to recruit a hero that maybe I don't want. So I'm pretending that I want to recruit a hero that I don't want so that you can use your effect. A lot of these little things which make for a quite engaging game when you're talking about a game that is this small. It should be smaller. This box really bothers me. It should be much smaller. Half the size of this box would have been great. It is a game that is conceptually small, that is small in terms of the components, small in terms of the size of the rules. I'm not talking about the rule book, but the conceptual sphere that the rules embody. What am I even talking about? The rules are very simple, is what I'm trying to tell you. But around those rules, between hand size, bluffing, deduction, and interesting card effects, there is enough to make this for a pretty interesting game. It is a filler in the sense that it will probably not be the main meal of a game night, the main course in a game night, unless you play it several times, which is totally possible. It's not a filler in the sense that it probably doesn't play in 10 minutes. I guess somebody could win just really quickly, but I haven't seen that happening. It's a little bit of an extended filler, but the good thing is that even if it lasts a little longer than a traditional filler, maybe half an hour or more, you are involved all the time. You're always engaged because you're trying to figure out if the card that comes to you is one that you need. You're always given the chance of doing something. If not that, at least you're looking at what other players want and are trying to do and what effects they haven't used yet, and you're trying to plan ways of tricking them. So that's a great thing because there's really no downtime here because you always are involved in the game. So even if you play with 5 players, I guess if you're surrounded by 4 players with analysis paralysis, then it will be a pain. But in most cases, you always have something to do between playing your turn or trying to figure out what card is being offered to you and trying to figure out the right timing for the effects. There is stuff going on to keep you interested as the game progresses. So 7th Hero, with the exception of the box that I don't like at all, this is a nice little game. I recommend it to anyone who is looking for a simple, clean filler or an extended filler. This is a good game for a warm-up in a game night before you play the main course of the night. You can play it a bunch of times. So probably the negative thing, if it's a very minor thing, it doesn't have a 2-player option. You need at least 3. For many players, having the option of playing it with their spouse when no one is around is a plus. This one doesn't have a plus, but even without that plus, this is a pretty fun, good game. Also excellent for a lunch break. As I said earlier, I played it just early today during lunch, and it works very well that fashion. It doesn't take you long to set it up, teach it, and play it. 7th Hero by AG. Simple, nice, little game, definitely enjoyable.